Welcome to the Great British Pinball Podcast, and here are your hosts Scott Rundell and Neil McRae.
Welcome, pinball fans. First of all, apologies, it's been a while, entirely my fault. Scott and I tried to record a podcast. My computer or network or something was not working right, and we kind of had to give up. And then I was in a whole load of UK Open stuff. Anyway, welcome finally to episode 4 of the Great British Pinball Podcast. I am Neil McRae,
and I'm Scott Rundell. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, my friend. It's been a crazy pinball month, an absolutely insane pinball month. We've got Venom, we've got David Bowie, we've got Elton John, we've got Alien, we've got Ripley, we've got just so much stuff. And actually, Labyrinth. That's what I was trying to think. It just went around my head there. I was trying to think of a pinball month where so much has come out that no one knew about. But also no one, very little knew, few people knew some of the things that were coming out. I know you had a bit of insight to one of them, but a fantastic month given, only in March we had Texas Pinball Festival where we had the Bonanza release, I thought 6 games were released and I was thinking that's it for this year. But hell no, there's more to come. I mean, I think it's super exciting. So, we're going to talk a bit about Venom because I've actually played it now. We'll talk about Labyrinth, talk about Ripley and Alien, Elton John, and we're just gonna kind of kick the tires through that, and then we'll do a bit on some events that have been going on and some events that are coming up, and hopefully we'll be funny, entertaining, and if not interesting. So let's a mega month, and there's other stuff going on. I've forgotten Stranger Things re-release.
It did.
Let's talk a little bit about that, but let's start with Venom. We were going to try and talk about that when we did the podcast earlier in the month. So I've played the Pro and the Premium now of Venom.
Oh, so you've experienced of basically the full package and the cut down package then?
Yeah, or rather the cut down package and the kind of poor man's I can't afford anything package is how I might call it. But look, let me tell you, right? I think people are going to like Venom when they play it. It's a very straightforward game, more straightforward than the hype would give you to view. First of all, you can't miss a shot. I mean, honestly,
wide shots. Then are they?
The shots are wide. They're easy to hit, and the actual thing that you have to do in the game, and some of you might be aware of this because it's been around for a bit now, is you're literally hitting 2 or 3 shot combos. So you hit yellow, you hit flash and yellow, you hit blue, you hit flash and blue, and that kind of builds up your XP and your character. And then you get into a few big boss fights with at the end of it.
So walk me through those boss fights, though. Is there anything unique in the code that says to you, hey, not just shoot the flashing arrow? Is there an element that says, hey, you've got to run this combination, or you've got to hit this like right ramp followed by a left ramp followed by, I don't know, a pop or something like that?
You're basically following the lights. So it starts...
right. So it's just hit whatever lights.
Yeah, so if you hit yellow, you got to hit flash and yellow. If you hit blue...
Are there any like penalty elements? Because what I was trying to figure out in a boss fight, and they've done this in a couple of other games in the past, where, and not particularly Stern, but other companies, I should say, is like, you hit certain other shots and it acts as a devaluer, like it works against you. Have they got anything like that?
No, there's not... I wouldn't say that there's that, but you kind of have to if you hit blue, then don't hit the flashing blue. Then you've got to hit blue again. So there's not. But you're not.
So there's a build up in some places.
There's a build up, but you're not. I mean, and you build up your character, and as your character gets stronger, the boss fights become a little bit easier.
Do you think that's going to be a problem in the long term?
I don't think so, because here's the thing I absolutely guarantee: anyone who owns a Venom will get to the wizard mode.
Okay.
Absolutely no question about it. And I think
Is that like Bally style wizard mode? Is it easy and quick to get to in 15 minutes, or is it something you have to still do in
no,
30 minutes?
no, I think it will take no. Well, there's kind of two angles to it. So you're building up your character, and that's going to take you months,
Right.
maybe weeks, right? Depending on how often you play it. And then when your character gets so strong, it makes it easier for you to get through the game. You have to do fewer shots, or there's certain things that you have to get through. There's still some big. There's still a couple of real challenging fights in it. No matter how strong your character is, the fights get a bit stronger. But this game was made for people who aren't great at pinball.
Right.
So our good buddy Gonzo, our good friend V Monroe, eat your heart out. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love Venom because it's aimed at people who really. I mean, I think they've designed the entire game around low skill people who love pinball, but for whatever reason, aren't as good.
Does
Um,
it do something different though in that respect? Is it one of those games that's like easy to learn and hard to master? Or is it just literally, hey, here's a zero depth game that you can just pick up and play, and you're done in 15 minutes, and you come back to it anytime you want?
no. I mean, look, despite the shots being easy and wide, to get anywhere in the game is not easy, right? But
So it has got some element of, how can I put it, an easy to learn curve, but then it's got
yeah,
depth behind
exactly,
it.
exactly. So you kind of go along, and then it starts to get harder, right? And
Okay.
or rather, actually, no, that's the wrong way of looking at it. Actually,
It's got longevity is maybe what you mean.
yeah. The key thing is you're not going to lose the ball that often, right? You'll have a long ball time, and
Interesting.
actually, it
Yeah.
reminded me. Bizarrely, it kind of reminded me of Scooby Doo because it's got a lot of shots like Scooby Doo that come back to the flipper. It's harder than Scooby Doo, no question about it. At least in my view, it is.
Right.
There's some other things in it. The Carnage shot. I mean, and I haven't played the latest code. I played the one before the current code. The Carnage shot is cool mech, but they haven't really tied it into the game as much as I think they need to, and I suspect that will come with code.
Okay.
And that actually the XP system, everyone's thinking, oh, I remember in the previous podcast, I was a bit nervous
Apprehensive.
about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, it doesn't affect the way you play the game at all. It's pretty, and I think this is the key thing about it. Whilst they've added this system, they've kept the system relatively simple, I can actually see Stern putting this system into other games for sure.
Okay.
Um, and
This is
and
like the early prototype of what might be to come then.
yeah, I think, and actually, the thing that makes me sad to some extent, and I'm talking more for the whole kind of hobby, if you like, but
Mm.
the Venom isn't selling well. In fact, it's the worst game Stern have had since
I've seen
Black
articles
Knight.
about that. Yeah.
Is the rumor on
But
the street?
I don't know if necessarily that's down to the title, if I'm honest with you. I honestly have seen a downturn in every aspect of the hobby at the moment.
Yeah, I think it's a. I think this is death by a thousand cuts. Really, I think the title's not
Mm.
great. The timing's
I
not
think
great.
if this had released like a year ago or 2 years ago, I think even that it's the license that it is, it probably still would have sold quite well.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't think there's one thing that's hurt this game, but it's a fun game. I enjoy playing it. Reminds me, I mean, in terms of Stern, it kind of reminds me of Elvira. If you like the shots on Elvira and the kind of hardness of it, I think you'll go well with this.
Right.
The extra mechs on the premium, again, I didn't play it too
I was
much,
going to
but
say, did you feel like you missed it? Because obviously the whole motto of that game was change the character, change the game, sort of thing.
you don't miss it. You don't miss it. But
Interesting.
the great thing is you can walk up and, hey, I want to play Spider-Man today, and I want to beat this guy, or I want to play this guy, and I want to beat that guy, and that is actually quite a cool feature. I kind of like that. Again, I haven't had a huge amount of time on the game, but
Right.
this was it. Pinball at
Because
the
to
Lab.
me, that felt like when you take that element out, how are they fulfilling it in the Pro then? Because
Well,
how do
it's
you
all in software. It's all in software basically. So
right? Are
you've
shots
got your
easier or
three-
what?
the shots are the shots are practically the same. A little bit. There's a little bit more
And I
to
don't
it.
mean physical layout shots. I mean, like, is it like, oh, if I choose to work as, I don't know, I'm trying to remember the character's name. I'm terrible now. Um, but if I choose, like, I don't know, the Venom that's from Gwen, I think it's
Yeah,
Gwen Venom. Is
yeah.
it like, oh, okay, you've got easier like combination shots to finish a certain mode or something like that, or is it something else that they've tried to
So
do?
I'll be honest, with you, I don't know the answer to that. I think like I say, I've played it. I haven't played it in depth, but my
Right.
understanding is that different characters have different attributes that help you on your
Yeah, like bonuses or
on the
multipliers
journey.
or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know, but genuinely, I mean, I, I got a huge score on it. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I figured out. I mean, it was this the thing. I was able to figure out what to do pretty simply by just looking at what was going on. And I mean, there's loads of inserts, which again has scared a lot of people off. But actually, once you figure them out, it's second nature. It's not. It's not. My fear was that this was a kind of Game of Thrones slash Simpsons slash what's that other crazy complex game? Godfather type complicated, 10 menus to select shit. It's not like that
Oh,
at
it looks
all.
like a Monopoly board, yeah, sort of thing,
Yeah,
like where
I
you
mean,
got to figure out what you're doing.
it play, and again, it plays really nice. Brian Eddy, he's the master of fan layouts, and this one's
Yeah.
no different. Do I think it's a game? So I've got an LE in order. I was based on some of the early feedback. I was a bit nervous about that, but I'm quite looking forward to playing it.
But do you think it's maybe the code is just still early and that they're going to develop it? Because I've heard obviously
Yeah, the
James
code.
Bond has like
I think.
gone in
I
leaps and bounds now.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, yeah, I mean, if you haven't played a James Bond since the first release, you need to go play it because it's a million times better game. It's absolutely one of the best Stern games ever, in my view.
Wow, okay.
And I'm not just saying that because I'm a Bond fan. It is
You
genuinely.
are a Bond fan, so I have to
I'm a
take it with a
Bond
pinch of salt.
But no, I mean, genuinely go play it and make your own mind up. But it is
Okay.
superb. But yeah, look, they've got tons to add to this code. There's no question about it. And I just look at what they've done with Bond, even with Stranger Things that we'll talk about shortly, with the latest Jurassic Park code update, which has made the game so much more playable. And you
They
know,
added co-op play as well, didn't they?
yeah, they added co-op play and
That's pretty nice for people with families and stuff, I think,
yeah,
or
and
even just a
those,
house setting
yeah,
party.
again, it's another way of giving yourself more balls, playing with your
Yeah.
buddy or your mum or whatever. But yeah, it's. I think in terms of code, Stern are firing on all cylinders right now, in my view, except
Uh,
for one thing.
One thing I've always found that's good with Stern is the code. Most people will say, wait for the code, it will come. It is weird, I got to admit, in this hobby, it threw me off a little bit that you get a game and it's unfinished. It
Yeah,
takes ages for them to release it. I suppose it's a bit different for us because in the UK, just to give people in the US a bit of a window into how we get games, it can take months
yeah,
after, even up to a year plus, to sometimes get
yeah.
a product into the European shores. So when we see it and the product's not finished, it's a bit weird because it's like, well, it's been out for ages. Why is it still
Yeah,
not finished?
on the flip side, we're actually quite lucky because by the time the games get,
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes.
they've usually got better. I mean, when the games come out in the US, the
Oh, it's
code's
stripped. Yeah, it's barely
super
even
better.
functional. Yeah,
I remember Guardians of the Galaxy when it first came out it had no music in it,
that's
uh,
crazy. That's
which
crazy.
and Guardians of the Galaxy it's people don't realize it, but it is a music movie. It's about the music is the movie, right?
Oh,
And
100%. When he's got like literally he's walking around with his Walkman, that's his
exactly,
memory from his mother. It's the whole mixtape is about that. Even
and
the
when
third film has the evolution around that. Yeah.
I was in actually Guardians was launched in Florida, IAPA. I was there. Just happened to be out here with work, and I went to IAPA, and I thought because I went to I was on. It was actually my last day. I went to the. I mean, I tell you what, IAPA is like the US version of EAG, which is like a massive arcade show.
Sure.
This place in Florida, you could land 4 jumbo jets in it, and it was full to the brim with kind of carnival arcade stuff. It was insane. And I was there with my wife Mandy, and they launched Guardians, and there was no music, and there was literally a riot. How can you launch Guardians with no music? And they still, I'll be honest with you, I don't think I don't think they did enough on that, and of course Cleland and others fixed the game basically.
Yeah,
But
which is obviously a bit of a grey area, right? Because I always wonder if Stern one day is going to like do what they do with JJP as an example, where they encrypt the drives. By the way, Stern, please don't ever do that. Um, it's just
uh,
for me, it's like I get it. They've got to protect an IP and they've got to show to the license holder that they're respecting that. But the fact that there's an avenue for modders to turn around and add custom code in, like
well,
Jurassic
yeah,
Park adding in the movie code, it's a good
I mean,
example.
decrypting that JGP stuff, I don't think would be the hardest thing in the world. But
Potentially not. Yeah.
my take on, so I mean, Stern have kind of done that with Insider Connected. If you modify the code, Insider Connected start working. But actually, one thing, I mean, as much as I love the gameplay that's coming out of Stern's coders, one thing that is a total effort required, the reliability of the code since they put Insider Connected on it is nosedive. So UK Open, yeah, I mean the UK Open, we have machines constantly rebooting, and even
See, like that I didn't know. Okay.
Yeah, so Guardians of the
But
Galaxy.
what's causing that reboot? Do you think is it that the Inside Connect is losing connection and it's causing a restart, or is it actually just a bug in the code?
I just think the networking code's not where it needs to be to cope with Wi-Fi issues or
packet loss, stuff like that,
or stuff like that. And I think they've got more work to do on that. I mean, it's definitely got on some games it's got better, on other games it's got worse. But my take is so I'll give you an example. Guardians of the Galaxy, there's a big game in the semi-finals, finishes on it. I walk up to record the scores, and just as I get to the game, it reboots and we lose the scores.
Wow.
Yeah, luckily Mark had it on stream, so we're able to pull the scores
Pull
up.
the recording back, yeah.
But and actually over the weekend we had quite a few games. In fact, I don't think there was a. So we had all the games on Insider. I don't think there was a single game that didn't reboot over the weekend. Luckily, though, none of them rebooted at a bad time, like mid-game or anything like that. But yeah, that's one area where I think Stern have got to do better. But and then we didn't cover this because we didn't release the podcast. But the Jurassic Park code, just I'll very quickly touch on that. They have made that game so much more accessible and playable. There's so many more things.
I had an LE, but I've got to admit, I found it incredibly frustrating to play. Like the game is hard.
It is a hard game, no question about it. The shots are still as hard as they are.
Yeah,
but
of course.
They've made certain parts of it, like the control room is much more balanced. You can collect certain things, and that gives you a bonus. Actually, Escher moaned. The UK Open Escher moaned at me because I didn't up any games that we didn't have code that was kind of a couple of weeks old. I didn't upgrade them because I didn't want to risk it.
You didn't want to risk stability.
On a couple of games, we were running older code because it worked, and he was a bit narked that he went and did all this work and didn't get a bonus for it because he was running older code. So, but we fixed it by sticking a post-it note on saying not running new code. But
yeah, it's pretty insightful though to see that, because I got to admit, I don't think I've even heard people report on that. So, do you think it is just purely down to how having that many machines running on a Wi-Fi network where it's all high contention?
No, because I think if I plug them all, I'm actually going to test this. So
we're going to try and do an Ethernet adapter on it, and then try and hardwire them in.
Basically, all my games at home are moving to Ethernet.
Right.
So we'll see if that makes a difference. But I personally don't think it will. But we'll see. I mean, the other issue is so I get a lot of shit from Stern on, well, Neil, it crashes because you're running the Scorbit. Actually, half the games didn't have Scorbit on them, and they were still rebooting.
Right.
So it's that might be a factor, but it's not. Even if you take that out, it's not. You've still got an issue. I'm sure Stern will fix it and they'll get through it. But if you're running an event or a
tournament, yeah.
It's
because talk to me about it, because that's the thing, right? In the last podcast, again, you touched on this before. We did do a recording, but unfortunately, it was like a PowerPoint show because of your packet loss. I saw actually mentioned in there you had a lot of top players show up. So how many top players did you have actually show up?
I mean, Yeah, I mean, look, we had someone. I actually haven't counted it personally, but someone said we had like kind of more than 60% of the top 20. So
Yeah, yeah.
We had Escher there, we had Keith Elwin there, we had Kaylee George, we had Daniel Acciari, Roberto uh, Roberto Pedrosa, I think that's his name. Carlos de la Cerda, Ray Day was there. He won it. He won it in style. Actually, I was really pleased
I
to
mean,
see.
that's great though to have such a turnout though in the UK. I mean, that for those people to travel that far as well, credit
Yeah,
to them for doing
I
it.
mean, look, I think that I always feel that it's a, if you're going to, like, I'm here in New York and right now at the New York Pinball Championships, and actually doing an event here in New York is 100 times harder than London because
Okay,
you can't park, you can't, venues are like 10 times the price. I mean, it's actually Comic Con weekend in New York, and this hotel that I'm in, it's literally, my shed is 4 times the size of it, and it's costing me $600 a freaking night.
wow.
It's not, look, it's got Wi-Fi, it's got a bed, it's got a shower. That's all I really need. But compared to, for $600 a night in London, I'd be staying at the Savoy, right? So,
Sure.
and you got so many regulations here in New York about moving stuff and unions, and it's just, I've helped the guys here in New York the past 3 years, 4 years, 4 years. So a break for COVID, and it's really hard for them. And also, they don't have it, like, we're very lucky at UK Open. We got Pinball Republic. We got 60 games
Yeah.
that are immediately usable for this event, whereas they don't have them. So they it's harder for them to have as many
What
games.
do
But
they do then to organise it? They just pull from clubs in the area and stuff like that,
from,
or bars?
well, they pull games off location.
Right. So from location. Yeah.
Some people have got a few games at home, but again, New York apartments aren't really designed to have dozens of pinball machines in them,
Square
right?
footage is at a premium. Let's face it. So yeah.
100%. So, but they put on a great show. Levy, who's at the UK Open, he's a great buddy of mine. He puts on a really fun event, fun games, and actually, I was there this morning having a quick once over, and Mark from Backhand Pinball, who did the stream at UK Open, I met him through this. He did the stream. He does the stream here. So,
Yeah.
and there's actually a couple of Europeans over this year as well, which is good. But like, we're unfortunately, there's a clash with District 82, who've got a big what they call the Super Series on. So turnout for both of those events is a bit split because some people have come here, some people have gone. I would like to have gone to both, and I would have gone to both, but they same weekend. So I hope next year they figure that out. But so far the I mean, the UK Open, I can't, every event we had the Classics 2 actually was the top qualifier for Classics 2, which I was really pleased about.
Nice.
Although I completely flumped it in the finals. The main was great.
Was that stress getting to you then? Was it a little bit?
I think a little bit, I was also knackered, mate. I was so freaking tired. I worked out.
Yeah.
I got almost 9 hours sleep through the whole weekend.
Oh wow.
So first Friday I was at 3 in the morning working on system stuff. There was we had a Wi-Fi issue I was trying to fix.
Yeah.
Saturday, so I got to bed at 3. I was up at I think 6. Uh, 20
Wow.
minute breakfast, and then I was getting stuff ready, and then
You're not as young as you used to be, Neil. So let's face it, you're pushing yourself a bit hard there.
yeah, look, I don't mind it. You kind of live off the adrenaline. Same
Sure.
as actually Saturday was a
Well, it's
bit
the
better.
passion, isn't it? Right.
Absolutely, and also
Yeah.
I want to see a big game. I want to, and we had a couple of really massive games. The Guardians of the Galaxy one I mentioned was great.
So did you put or did someone put lightning flippers on those? I heard, or is that not? Was that
Yes,
not in the tournament?
no, so actually that Guardians of the Galaxy's had lightning flippers on it since 10 minutes after I bought it, because I played it and thought, this is too easy.
Wow.
Um,
That must be pretty hard though, because that's like, for those that aren't aware, by the way, that's like if you think of games like Fishtails as an example, where they got a shorter flipper. So basically, the bat is 1/8 shorter, I think, from memory.
I'll be
That
honest with
creates a
you.
wider gap.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I think it's more mentally impacting than actually skill impacting.
You think?
Yeah, for sure. Because look, I see the way Guardians is in the club, Pinball Republic. If you want to go play it, and the people have adapted to it. So all the locals have adapted to it, and then you see the scores that folks were getting.
I think there was a post on the forum. You probably haven't seen it because someone said, "Oh, I thought it came with them." Because obviously they'd seen it. They'd seen it at at the club, and they just assumed that they came with them. I was like, "No, no, Stern don't ever do lightning flippers."
I mean, that's the other thing. There's not a lot of Guardians around in the UK. It was again
No, there definitely isn't.
because of the lack of music. It was panned, and people thought it'd be terrible, and it was just another
It's
metallic.
not a bad game, in all fairness, though.
I think it's a great game. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's challenging. I like mode based games, and it's a mode based
I
game.
see. I'm different to you. I just like bash toys, and I
Yeah,
like the fact
I
that you can
like them
shoot the
too.
group.
I like them too. So Groot's awesome. But like, I mean, yeah, I think. I mean, just was. I mean, I really want to thank all the folks that helped. I mean, we had obviously the PBR guys, the core team,
Well, you
loads of
mentioned a lot of
other.
these people are just doing this pro bono, right?
Yeah,
So
this is basically we're not like, we don't make any money out of this. In fact,
yeah,
frankly, the opposite. But we want to put on a big event. We've put UK firmly on the map. I think it actually
it's
turns
good.
out that
It's great.
UK Open was the top 8th tournament in value in terms of world championship points. So I'm
Wow.
super pleased about that. But honestly, all the guys and girls that were involved in running it, and actually the players, we talk about pinball moments. I've said this, and players make the pinball moments, in my view.
Sure.
And all the players that were there, you had the sense from them that they wanted this event to be successful.
It's
And
cool.
it was quite inspiring to see that. And we had some great feedback. Ray Day said he's coming back. Keith said he's going to come back. Keith
That's
Elwin.
good. That's good.
Although he did sign a few translates.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
That's
So
nice.
someone who shall remain nameless, Andy, comes up to me and says, "Do you think Keith would sign my translate?" And I'm thinking, "Oh my god, right?" Because Keith's quite a quiet guy. He's not, he's a great
What you're
guy.
saying, he's not a Canada type.
No, yeah, definitely not, 100% not. He's not a he's. I get the sense he's an introvert,
Sure.
but he's
But then again, I think a lot of people own pinball probably are, if I'm honest.
yeah. Anyway, I'm just worried that like he's coming to play and he gets distracted by it. But I guess that's part and parcel of making good games. But anyway, he signed
Sure.
them. I mean, I kind of said, "Look, hey Keith, there's a couple of folks want you to sign translate, so you're right." I was like, "Yeah, it's fine."
Do you
So
think it's a bit surreal for them where they feel like, hey, I've become a bit of a celebrity? Even it's a small, obviously, community. I mean, still, I imagine in America it's fairly large, but probably a bit surreal for him to get people going, I need your
look,
autograph.
I mean, talking to Craig Pullen, who's one of the UK players, it's like Neil, it's just great to play with some of the best pinball players. And
Mm.
then you've got people who love Iron Maiden, love Jurassic Park, love Godzilla, and here's the guy who made the game here.
Yeah,
You know,
it's
we had
great.
we had Ray Day, who's written the code for Led Zeppelin, Rush, Foo Fighters, and he's here. It's hard. It's hard, not to kind of ignore that we've, that these people are around and they're really accessible. I mean, I know Ray and Keith reasonably well, and they'll always have a chat with them and see what's going on. But yeah, it was good. It's great that they came off. The thing I'm happy about is they all enjoyed it. So hopefully next year they'll come back, and we got to find a different venue though. I think the Hilton's is a venue. Is the room is brilliant. The hotel is really difficult to work with, and and actually, I don't mind being difficult to work with if it's cheap. If I'm
Sure.
paying a lot, they should be kissing my ass, frankly, and it's not a
Well,
cheap
how
place.
does it work in terms of like, because do you, obviously we're touching into stuff that's probably very British elements here, but how do you handle the ULEZ and stuff like that? Is it because like the vans must not be able to, they have to, all those added fees then to get all the
Yeah,
equipment
well,
into
actually,
the,
all the vans we were using were compliant, but there's some people who drove.
okay,
There's some people who drove there, like Kevlar. He said, "I just have to pay for the ULEZ." I was like, "Yeah, nothing I can do about it, mate." So
mm,
yeah, some people, some of the people who came along, ULEZ is a pointless tax created by a stupid mayor that basically, if you pay tax, you will save the planet. And of course, we all know that's bullshit.
it's
So
going to someone's
it's a
coffers,
tax. It's a
isn't it?
tax on the poor, frankly, because
Pretty much.
They're trying to take old cars off the road, and most people who've got old cars can't afford to buy a new one because if they could, they
Absolutely.
would. So anyway, bit of a local rant there, but that's why we're a Great British Pinball Podcast. But no, look, it was a great event, and honestly, from the bottom of my heart, everyone that was involved in helping run it, thank you.
No, it's credit to you, Neil, as I say,
without-
and the people behind it for putting, I would say, England on the map in terms of like the international stage. Because
yeah,
although we've had other people building, I would say, events around the UK art for the UK community, this one puts us on the map internationally. So I like
yeah,
that. That's great.
and to be honest, yeah, there's part of that that's great. There's part of it that's maybe not so great. So next year, we're probably going to extend it by one day.
Okay.
And have the Great British Pinball Tournament sponsored by the Great British Pinball Podcast. But we're
Okay.
going to do something that's aimed at the British players.
Oh, you definitely always want to try and help promote the hobby within our shores, right?
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, anything to grow it here is a positive thing in my book, because we are much smaller than I would say much of Europe. I mean, Germany, Italy, and that. I feel, to be honest with you, have a much bigger footprint on players than we do.
No doubt about it. And look, I mean, we've got to figure out if, I mean, it's always at the end of it, I'm never doing it again. But then you kind of relax and you realize how good it was. So, but we got to get the right volunteers, we got to get the right help. We got to genuinely have to find a venue. And actually, Pinball Republic, it's no secret we're looking for a venue right now as well. That's number one priority. Anyway, look, let's move on.
Sure.
But so we talked a bit about Venom. Let's jump into Stranger Things very briefly.
Yeah, sure.
So I've got Stranger Things LE. I love the game. I love the vibe of it, the environment, the music.
Yeah, the license is spot on for me.
Yeah, and I've actually got a macro in my house so that the light above Stranger Things doesn't come on quite as bright, so it's a bit darker.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great game. But it's sold really badly, and let me.
I think honestly that was a victim of COVID, though. Personally,
No, I don't think so.
I don't know, because they couldn't get out and try it, so therefore it was hard for it to produce a sale. Maybe I'm wrong. That's my opinion, at least.
So look, Stranger Things was actually launched pretty much here in the UK.
Okay.
They launched it at CES, which is the big consumer electronics show in Vegas at the start of the year, and but the first time you could play it as a punter was EAG, which was the week after, and the launch at CES, they basically launched it in the brightest room possible, so the projector looked terrible.
Right.
And it was a bit clunky. The game, I don't think the game was set up well. It just wasn't like, again, Stern. They just seem to have real bad luck when it comes to game launches, especially when they do them outside of their environment.
Don't mention James Bond then.
Yeah, exactly. That's another great example of it, though, where they just a shit show from start to finish, frankly. But it's not like they wake up and say, "Hey, we're going to do a bad job." It's just certain things happen, right? Anyway, the game came to the UK very early. So, in fact, it's one of the prototypes. You can play it in what's the name of that place in London?
Funland.
Funland. It's there. It's the same game. It came here very early. Stern actually had it in a room where you could experience the projector. The code was still very early, and everyone thought, it looks like Attack from Mars. And,
yeah, you could make those similarities.
Hardly any of them got ordered. And I ordered an LE because, one, I like Attack from Mars, so a modern Attack from Mars is great. I like Brian Eddy. I own every single game that Brian Eddy's put out. He's a great
games,
great designer. And then basically then it's the same with there's a lot of other games like this. Guardian's got a shit billing at the start. Deadpool, Elvira to some extent, probably less so, more about the cost of it. But certain games come out from Stern in the UK, they get panned very early. No one orders them, and then people then wonder why they're so expensive to get a hold of. It's because no one, or if Phil doesn't fill a truckload of Stranger Things in the first or second wave, then they're not coming over. Then you'll buy them to order. But the challenge with Stranger Things is they killed the game very early because generically it didn't sell well.
Yeah.
And
Well, at the end of the day, it's what we're seeing at the moment, right, with Stern. Every time a title doesn't sell well, they start doing another run of something else, a rerun of something else.
look, they're a business to make. This is one of the things, Look, if Pinball Info ran Stern, it would have gone bust 10 years ago. I mean, the amount of business clowns that pop up there and say, "Well, Stern should do this." Yeah, right, mate. Good luck with that. Why don't you set up your
some license choices that people come up with? I must admit, and I'm like going, maybe for your age of demographic, but not for the general populace. Like it's just like some weird choices. I'm just like, there's never in a million years that would sell.
Even the decision, oh, Stern should put more in the games and charge less. I'm like, honestly, have you got any idea how much the cost of wood, just fucking wood, excuse my language, just wood, how much
the bill of materials has gone up, let's face it. But I mean, looking at Stranger Things, right? And I had one as well. It was actually probably maybe the third or fourth game I got when I got into this hobby. And I got lucky. I got one that was used, but it had everything in it. It had like the UV kit, which is to me a must. I don't care what anyone says. If you ain't got the UV kit, you haven't got the whole game.
Yeah.
And then, okay, it was a pro, but argument-wise, to be honest with you, okay, you lose the projector, but pretty much the game is there. Like you lose the ball lock in the top left corner, but in all essences, it's the same game.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it. And I got hounded by someone. He kept upping the money, and at the end, I just thought, I can't say no. I'm just going to say yes. And I still regret it to this day, getting rid of that game, because to me at least, Stern don't really make games like they used to, and they certainly don't make games like what was done back in the Bally and Williams era. And I feel like this game, or at least because it's Brian Eddy, it's definitely got a 90s feel to it.
Yeah, no question about it.
Simplistic code. Although it's hard to get to the final showdown, which is like the end wizard mode, it was fairly easy to get to the halfway mini wizard mode, and that was enough for me. I had fun with it, and I still did. And I feel what really irritated me, and I'm going to say this right now, is that rerun to me was a complete misstep by Stern. What they should have done is delayed it to when the next season of Stranger Things is released.
Yeah.
They should have added a Vecna edition and done the whole thing with a new skin and update the code. And for anyone who says to me right now, you don't need to update the code, we'll talk about it shortly, but there is a thing called the Ellen Ripley version of Alien, which does exactly that. It is possible. Stern can revisit code, and I honestly think they could have done it on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Look, updating the code for the new season, or at least from there's certain things they could do, but what they can do is change the inserts, right? They're baked in.
Yeah.
So
you can't do anything about the Demogorgon, right? But that's part of season one. It's still an iconic piece, and I think having Vecna there instead would be a bit weird. I suppose you could stick him there, thinking about it, but it would be a bit strange. I think Stranger Things, but to me at least, they could have done something with the code still.
The same is true with the same is true with Game of Thrones. And actually, they did put out a very updated Game of Thrones code, but it didn't update the TV. It didn't update beyond season 3, I think.
Sure.
So I think, I'll be honest, in this one, they could do it, but I think they're damned if they do and damned if they don't. There'll be a bunch of people saying,
maybe. I don't know about you, but if someone's going to do a Vault edition of something, I expect it to add value. I don't expect it to be a rerun. And I think maybe I've been spoilt by the ideas of what happened with Spider-Man when they did the Vault edition of that.
Yeah.
And I have these connotations in my head that says, hey, an Iron Man. I expect it to go, new art package, or maybe look at the music or the call-outs. I mean, as well as I do, the voice actor, forget his name because he's one of the main, he's the sheriff in Stranger Things. So I forget his name. Me and my wife always make the same call-out. Whenever we get an extra ball in the game, we say it in the exact same way he says it from Stranger Things. Yes, extra ball. It's just it's so bad and it's so cheesy, but we say it every time we get an extra ball in any game.
But that's Pavlov, man. That's what they want, right? That is what pinball designers want that in your head.
They want the cheese factor. Is that what they were saying?
They want you to be thinking about that. It's like for me, I when I first got Walking Dead, I used to wander around the house doing Walking Dead call outs. Like the cat would be sleeping, I go, he's dead. It's just that means that
I tell you, it reminds me of the other one. Do you know with Star Trek when you have the Bones guy and he goes Khan really badly? It's
it
so
sounds
cheesy.
terrible. It sounds terrible. But yeah, I mean the look. I think it's good that Stern are doing for those that want them.
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong. It's great to have them back, but they should have included the UV kit.
Oh,
It should have had it by default.
100%, especially given the price difference between.
Yeah, you're paying more and you're getting the same. I'm just like, Stern, I know you can make money on this. You the production, the R&D is already spent.
50
right?
would have done
Yeah.
it, and they've already written it off because they stopped building them, right? So
Yeah, exactly.
and also there's an awful lot of people. Actually, Brad, who's got Stranger Things, he's been trying to get a UV kit for like 2 years now, and he just can't get one. So hopefully, those people who want the accessories will be able to get them.
Hopefully now, yeah.
I mean,
Is the rumor true about the fact that there's an improved projector, or is that just a rumor?
I don't know. Look, here's what I can tell you: the current projector they're using is unobtainium. So,
right.
but I had heard that Stern had managed to get more of them, and actually, if you order one now, you'll get it delivered. But then I also heard that they're using Brian Eddy said in a interview that they're using an updated projector, and apparently they've worked on the TK lock, so that's better somehow,
more reliable, basically. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so look, my take on that is look, if there's things, if I have to go and buy a new TK lock mech to make it work better, I'm happy to do that, right? I'd rather not have done that, but if there's a way, I believe that anything that they've done to make the game better is retrofittable. The projector's an HDMI projector, right? So all I need to do is find the mount for it and bang it in.
Sure.
I actually bought a spare projector because when I saw the projector that was in the game,
you thought that isn't going to last.
Like, there's no.
I wonder, do you think it overheats? Is that what it is? Because there isn't really much ventilation, obviously, going into that unit.
Well, I think it. Well, I don't know if it overheats. There's not a lot of ventilation, but that area of the playfield isn't actually that warm. My take on it is you get people that turn the game off and on quickly, which just cooks the bulb. So
yeah, of course.
It
must be. Is it an incandescent style? Well, it works on a similar vein to incandescent. I suppose.
I think it's LED, but I honestly don't know. But my take is
but it's got a heating element in it of some sort.
It's got something that if you flip it on and off, and it's been on, if it's been on for, these games are on all day in arcades, right?
Yeah,
so,
that makes sense actually when you think about it. Because I got a Sony projector, and it has like a really slow shutdown period because it needs to cool.
Turn it off. It's going to let the bulb cool before you turn it back.
Yeah, the fan will keep running for ages, but obviously, if people are just flicking it off at the source, it could be literally cooking it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that specifically. I mean, actually, my projector's been fine. I haven't had an issue with it, but when I saw it, I just thought, that's an AliExpress special, and
straight from Temu.
Yeah, lo and behold. So look, either way, I think it's good news for existing owners. I think it's good news for people who want to buy it.
I do, yeah, but here's the good question for you then.
It's killed
will
value.
It sell? Yeah, well, yeah, but will it sell?
See, what's different now to what was different 2 years ago when it didn't sell?
Well, there wasn't COVID.
Well, there wasn't COVID, but look how crazy the market went for pinball machines. And
yeah,
look,
to be fair, I'll give you that. Yeah.
On the COVID thing, right? They announced Stranger Things December 2019.
Sure.
It was the first wave of orders was delivered March. Literally, I got my Stranger Things the week before lockdown, and that was the LE, right? So in the US, well, you say that, but I managed to get Avengers and other games. So COVID didn't affect, at least for me, I didn't feel that there wasn't something I couldn't get. I got Avengers, I got Turtles, I got what was the other game that came out at that time?
Elvira?
No, Elvira was earlier, but and actually, or was it later? Hold on, it was earlier. but Phil had one, and Phil, to be honest, I need to tell you a virus story another time. But anyway, COVID did not stop games getting delivered. I mean, basically, what happened is the guy. I remember Avengers. The guy, he phoned me and said, "Hey, I'm delivering your pinball machine. I'm going to leave it in the middle of your driveway. Don't come out until I've gone." So I was like,
Right.
"Okay." So I've got, in fact, I've got a video of this. This guy delivers it, walks away, and then as soon as he's gone, I'm able to go out and get it and wheel
It's
it
like a
in.
bomb.
It's like some sort of weird hostage exchange,
I was
basically.
going to say, yeah.
But look, and fair play to the guys who delivered them. I forget the name of them. Hadfields for
Yeah.
doing that, because we were desperate for stuff to do back then, right? It was like, oh yes, a new
Oh,
pinball
yeah, of
machine,
course.
right? But look, I don't think COVID affected it. Look,
Well, here's a better question for you, because
factor.
I'm speaking from experience here of recently being stung pretty damn hard, to be honest, by having a rerun of an Elvira House of Horrors. So I lost a fair chunk of money on that, more than I ever was prepared to, if I'm honest. I think, at least in my head, people have a mentality of what the game was worth when it originally came out, and they market it thinking, well, if I'm going to buy a second-hand one, I don't want to pay more, and certainly don't want to pay more than when it was first released.
Well, this is kind of some of my thoughts about some of the, I'm going to call them bozos on the forum, where
Always been politically correct there, Neil, but yeah, okay.
but no, look, there was people trying to sell an Iron Maiden that they'd paid the original Iron Maiden price for close to the current price of Iron Maiden,
Sure.
right? And I'm sorry, that's just bullshit. Anyone who buys that game like that, I think's mental. And if you want to get rich in life and have the great things, giving your money away to people who are effectively, in my view, ripping you off. I'm sorry,
Mm.
it's just not. I just don't. If you're
But
so
that you're coming from the perspective then of somebody, I was fair to say, trying to buy a machine that was built in the original run and they're
yeah,
now being sold at the current price.
yeah,
Flip it the other way around, though, for people who have bought the rerun at the inflated new price, which is
yeah,
a hell of a lot more. So, as an example, in the UK here, you could get, I think, an Elvira for 9.5 when it first came out as a premium,
yeah,
and I paid 13.
yeah.
So I get people saying to me,
It's
"I
only
want to
one
pay you
thing
more than
that-
9.5."
Yeah, I mean,
That's a
look,
four. Do you know what I mean? That's like literally 4 grand straight
I
off the value. That's a pin.
I remember
That's
when
a problem to me. That
I
to me is the
agree.
biggest issue of reruns at the moment.
I agree. It's like this thing with cars. If you bought an M3 in 2014, it costs twice as much to tax if you bought one in 2015, because they
Sure.
changed the laws, right? You,
Yep.
you get this in these sort of things, and look, both you can see where on both sides that where the reality is. Unfortunately, COVID also drove this kind of madness about game value, right? And
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
there
it's
wasn't many,
accelerated prices tenfold.
yeah, and
But even Stern, though, you've probably seen the price chart, right? That got released where
oh
someone
yeah.
tracked all the price increases over the last 3 or 4 years. It's grown exponentially.
Well, look, I think the last price updates that both. I mean, we're talking about Stern, but let's
Any
not
pinball company,
not
if I'm
forget
honest.
about Jersey Jack,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
who are living in cloud cuckoo land, as far as I'm concerned.
yeah.
Um,
Well,
I
Toy Story especially, but yeah,
I mean, look, I think we've absolutely found a price ceiling.
I
I
think we
think
finally have.
I
Yeah,
think pinball machines could. I'm one of the way I approach business is, how do I generate demand? And one way you don't generate demand is by having something too expensive. That just turns demand away, right? So, and the trade off is, do I sell more games at a slightly less price, or do I sell less games at a higher price? And my take is when you've invested probably $1 million worth of effort in IP and design and construction and engineering,
sure.
you've effectively got a sunk cost to some extent of, how do I maximize return, and
But that goes on to new titles, though. Bear in mind what we're discussing here is
100%,
reruns.
100%. But right now, it's clear that the market is. I mean, the second-hand market is insanely affected by this stuff.
The second-hand market, I'm telling you right now, at least in the UK, is in the biggest spiral I've ever seen. I mean, I haven't been in it long, but I'm seeing people accept games well below what they
Yeah.
paid for them.
Well, as in the US, right, I imported a big game, right? This is a classic Stern game.
Sure.
To buy it like a year ago, you're probably looking at 3.5, 4 grand. I picked one up so cheap in the US compared to what I could get it in Europe. I was actually able to air freight it to the UK for the UK Open. That's
Wow.
how crazy it's got in the US, right? So, and look, but still, retail prices have a peg, and there is a correlation between where other prices are. But
Yeah.
in my mind, I think if Stern knocked a couple of grand off games, especially, and the one thing that really pissed me, so I buy LEs, right? That's what I
Sure.
buy. They really fucked over LE owners. If you look at the price, if you look at
Well,
the high,
I tell you what makes, and it kind of leads on to what we're about to talk about, which is again is like Elvira's latest next incarnation, which I think is called the Blood Kiss Red Edition or something like that. It's again, if Stern keep releasing these limited runs of everything, it no longer has the appeal of a limited collector's value to me. I look at like Jurassic Park LE. The Jurassic Park LE tanked because of what happened with the 30th edition.
yeah,
Suddenly, where people were charging, 16, 17, $18,000 on Pinside for like an LE plus, suddenly back down to 11, 12 because it's lost its rarity or its scarcity. You never see people in the watch industry or anyone else for that matter, like shoes and that, going, "Hey, we're going to release another variation of the same thing," because you will piss off those collectors, and that's not a good idea.
but look, this is an industry that does not have the maturity to think about
Maybe,
customers. It doesn't, Scott.
yeah,
Look,
maybe.
look at let's take Jersey Jack, right? My Guns N' Roses, right? It literally fell apart, and they didn't give a shit. I wrote to the CEO of the company, right? And there's like a golden rule for CEOs of companies, right? If you write to the CEO, he replies or she replies, right? It's
Sure.
a golden rule. I didn't even get a reply, right? Even if the reply was, "Sorry, Neil, we think you're on crack cocaine. You can piss off," right? I would.
You'd get a response, is what you're getting at.
That's
Yeah.
cool. Okay, that's where you are, right? But to get zero response, just unacceptable. To be fair to Stern, right? And a lot of people give me the Stern fanboy. Stern,
Sometimes justly so.
Stern, I don't know, but look,
Who else gets a pre-populated playfield?
a few folks got repopulated people
Maybe,
twice.
maybe.
But look, that's the point, right? You know, if you, I mailed so my Ghostbusters. I mailed Gary Stern and said, "Hey, Gary, my first ever, my first ever pinball machine, and it's got this issue." And Gary's like, "No worries, Neil. We'll sort it out for you." And 6 months later, a brand new playfield turned up. Phil at Pinball Heaven fell off his chair, and I was like, "Well, you just got to ask the right way, right?" And
I
and,
think
and people
that
say,
definitely is a
"Neil,
thing. Yeah, I'll give
Neil,
you that.
you only get service like that from Stern because you've bought like 50 games from them. When I bought Ghostbusters, I bought one freaking game from them, right? So
So maybe you're right though. Maybe it is reaching out to the right channels then and getting through to the right people.
I think it's about your attitude. It's about how you engage with them. So I
Oh yeah,
would
you certainly shouldn't phrase an email going, "This is crap and I really hate you." It's more like, "Hey,
let me
I've bought this product and I'm not happy."
But let me tell you, I've seen those emails where people have sent them because they've
Yeah.
got it. Because I've seen them. Hey Neil, I know that you've got a contact here or there, and they send me the email they've written. I was like, mate, if you sent me that email, I wouldn't fucking reply to you either. You got to be you got to be
You've got to be
professional about
polite.
it.
Yeah.
Polite and look, things go wrong, right? Does anyone at Jersey Jack or Stern or anyone get out of bed to do a bad job? Apart from maybe Home Pin because he doesn't care about the pinball community. Despite the fact he's coming to Expo next week, apparently I can't wait to see him. But does anyone really think these guys deliberately?
I do think there's a lot of like good customer service in the world. I mean, I know you have your own opinions on Pinball Brothers, I suppose that will bring us across them quite neatly in a second. But
Dave,
like my experience with them at least was good. They were happy to provide me with another playfield, which is For the benefit of people, is it going to be in the camera? It's hiding somewhere over there. I can't find it.
Hiding behind
Anyway,
the
it's but nonetheless, right? They were always willing to like basically bend over backwards to give me what I wanted to keep me happy. And
yeah,
I didn't have 50 machines either. So I think there are people who will like go, I could live and die by the reputation of the business. If people feel badly enough about a product, they're going to vent it, and it's making sure that those people who have a bad experience are taken care of. So I don't doubt Stern do the right thing most of the time,
yeah.
100%.
And don't get me wrong. Some people, look, like with everything, some people have had, they've not had what they expected, and look, that would piss me. Look, Guns N' Roses, I didn't get what I expected, and but here's my reaction: I'm never buying another JGP game ever. Right?
Well, no, that's you got your principles, right? And I respect that, to be honest with you, because
Am
if
I?
you're stung by someone and they don't treat you well, then 100% you should vote with your feet.
Exactly, and not enough people do that in this space. Partly because there's been less choice. But look, if I think
Well,
if
given yeah, we should probably talk about the other up stuff coming stuff. Yeah, but
yeah,
there's
look,
definitely going to be more choice in the future.
100%, if JGP brought an epic game, I would wait and buy a second hand one. I wouldn't buy one from them. I
Hmm.
just couldn't. I would wait. I would make sure the second hand one I got worked, and boom, on you go. And I think, look, this is the opportunity for folks. The market is depressing by the dip, right?
Hmm.
And effectively, there are some reasonable bargains. Now the question is does it go down further? I hope not, because that's going to have pretty
It could
big.
become a death spiral.
Yeah,
That's what I don't want to see.
and
I say I definitely think it's a buyer's market at the moment.
100%, no
100%.
question about it. And look, it's rare in this modern world that it is that you're in something where it is a seller's market these days. It's very rare. It
Mm.
doesn't happen for often because people identify it. Businesses identify that there's a seller's market here. We need to launch something and take advantage of it, right? Which is what Stern have done. People say, "Oh, you've done a cash grab." No, they've taken advantage of the fact that there's a demand for something, right? And
Yeah.
again, if you think doing a cash grab is a bad thing, then set up your own business and see how you would think when you've got opportunities presented to you that you've got to take advantage of, because you've got to pay bills, you've got to pay wages, and
You've
hopefully
got
you
to
make
keep production runs going, and I get that. I feel like what I would like to see from Stern, personally, is just a bit more empathy towards one, the limited edition collectors. So basically saying to them, like, look, when you buy something from us, you're smiling, but you know it's true. When you
no.
buy something with us, that is limited, and it's
Yeah, okay.
limited in that word.
So look, that's great. What about all
Yeah.
the LV owners of Alien whose machines are now worth junk, basically? Because
Well, you say that. Let's move on to that then. So I spoke with various people at Pinball Brothers, right, and very high up in the chain, and I spoke to them very early on, much earlier on than probably most people did, around the fact that now that they own the license, are they going to try and bring Sigourney Weaver into the picture? And they told me ages ago that they were having conversations with Sigourney Weaver and Disney just about that.
yeah,
And obviously at the time it was Fox, but yeah, it's obviously Disney now. But anyway, like basically I was a bit taken back by that because I was like, okay, so you're going to redo the code? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, okay. And I said, like, what are you going to do about, adding in like the playfield in the middle? I said, oh, there's nothing we can do with that, but we've got some ideas of how we're going to expand upon it. And we're thinking about the idea of expansions. So I knew about all this stuff ages ago. And I said to them, like, how are you going to release it? And they said, oh, it's definitely going to be given for free to everyone who owns a pinball machine. Now,
yeah,
obviously, what's changed between now and then is that they've released Queen, and Queen tanked. It's
yeah,
no great mystery that machine sold less than 250 units worldwide. So they've turned around, I think, and gone, we need to make more money, just like
yeah.
Stern do. They're releasing another title. Yeah, you can call it
Cash
that.
grab. It's a
But
cash grab.
but the standard edition and the LV will also have the ability to have the same code for free. So the
Yeah,
code update, which that's a major cost. Let's face it. You get someone like Sigourney Weaver in, she is not cheap.
yeah,
She is not cheap at all. So to get her back in and do a free code update to everyone else, I think that's great. There's not a DLC upgrade. It's not chargeable, not like
yeah,
CGC's we're potentially doing with Cactus Canyon. You've got to bear that in mind.
yeah,
And they're going to be doing a brand new topper for the standard edition that will be available as well. that's going to be fully interactive, and they're going to be the same expansions that you get with the Ripley edition are going to be available to anybody who had an LV or SV, so they can bolt it all on. Yes, okay, you won't have the same art package, but I don't know if you're potentially going to want to see the new art package, if I'm honest with you,
Yeah.
because it without giving too much of it away, it may not be everyone's tastes. So in all fairness, actually, when you say LVs are going to tank, I'm in the opposite camp. I think anybody who has an LV now is going to find it's worth more because it's going to have the Sigourney Weaver elements in
Yeah.
it
See,
where it didn't previously.
and look, if that's the case, fantastic. But I look at
Yeah,
Jurassic Park, right, and the 30th edition of Jurassic Park. So again, Stern, they put out a new machine, they updated
sure.
the code, they made the code available to everybody for free, right?
Yeah.
But it's firmly a cash grab from Stern, whereas this
This is a way for Pinball Brothers, I think, to keep revenue going because
yeah,
they're unlike them. They don't have 50 million IPs to run
this-
from.
and you've hit.
Yeah.
It's exactly the point I'm making.
Yeah.
They're not doing. People think this is just an. Genuinely, if you saw the margins in pinball, right? People think this is genuinely a way of grabbing cash. It's how these companies are freaking surviving,
It's
right?
sad that the margins are that thin, though, but considering how much the price of games have gone up.
But let me tell you. So I work in
So
the
down the manufacturing chain, someone's making money somewhere. Because I'm telling
yeah.
you now, I
Well,
can. Let's face it, I'm building a cyberpunk game, right? And it ain't costing me millions.
no,
So
but
it's like it's
your
one of
rate.
those things.
But if you put your hourly rate in, Scott's hourly
Yeah,
rate,
maybe,
which
maybe,
I know
maybe.
is not cheap, right? Uh, but no, look, and that's what's happened. The guy who's making PCBs in China or Taiwan, things got more expensive for him. He gets paid more, and that's just like a domino effect through the whole industry. I work in the electronics industry, big high end systems engineering,
Yeah.
and you know, I moved to there from a instead of being a buyer, I'm now a builder. And let me tell you, I was amazed at some of the way the costs have moved. You know, in the most ridiculous things like LED lights for PCBs, certain types of power supply, certain types of material, thin metal material machined. It's incredible the price changes.
Don't get me wrong, tooling is expensive.
Yeah,
Tooling is always expensive, but what you and I get your defense on it, right? But what I think you're failing to get at is a lot of the parts in Stern are literally rinse repeats of another. I obviously recently got my Star Trek back, right?
yeah,
After all this time, you've seen the post. So I finally got my Star Trek Premium after all this time. I thought, fuck it, I'm having one back because I regret selling that game. And I looked at it and I got Lord of the Rings next to it. And what do I see? The same Vux scoop
yeah,
in the Hobbit area that's in the exact same position
yeah.
as Star Trek. And
But
and let's face it, their games do have repeatable elements in it. There's a
no,
lot of
no,
mechs that
no
are
doubt
reused.
not a doubt about it. But look at the node boards, right? Here's
Yeah,
an example, right? 4 or 5 of the chips that were on a node board, you couldn't buy them anymore because no one was making chips
yeah, that,
at
yeah,
that density, right? So
sure.
they have to design a new node board. They have to change capacitors. In
But
fact, the
do you know
capacitor
what my attitude would be? That is that's poor R&D from their part. They should have made sure
is
that their
it?
supply chain. Yes,
Yeah, but
absolutely. I'm not,
yeah,
I'm sorry to say, but any electrical manufacturer should always sit there and look at it and go, right, can we keep this part running for X, Y, Z number of years, rather than going, is this going to be a problem in half a decade?
nah, so there was a time in my life where I would probably have agreed with you, right? But look at the car industry during COVID as well. You couldn't buy a car because they couldn't get the chips either.
But that
And
wasn't down to no. But that wasn't no. Okay, you're arguing two different points there. One is over shortage, and the other one is over discontinuation of a product. I think they've not. It's not like their product set was discontinued. It was just because suddenly chip manufacturers made the wrong call during COVID and said, actually, we're going to spin down all our production because we feel there won't be demand. And yet it was the exact opposite.
opposite,
And
absolutely, the
and
man went through the roof.
yeah,
That affected pinball. It affected
affected
TVs. It
everything.
affected everything,
Yeah,
right? And
absolutely.
to say that a node board is any different to the control board and it does indicators in your car. It's freaking the same, more or less the same technology.
Yeah, but you're saying that their product sets got discontinued and that now they're having to refab based on a
No,
chipset that's
so,
no
no,
longer
no. So
available.
some of the, no,
It's
no, no.
not
So,
like car manufacturers face that issue, though,
no,
right?
sorry, I maybe put that wrong way. They couldn't
Okay,
get chips that they wanted. They would love to have got them,
right.
but here's the other thing: some of the chips were available. They just tripled in price
Oh, that
because
did happen,
you could do it.
100%. Yeah, but
So
then, but then you have to go. Okay, right. My manufacturing costs have increased by 20%. Okay, that's fine.
yeah,
But look at that chart, and you tell me that increase in manufacturing cost has spilled over
no, no,
to the
no. Look,
selling
I'm
price.
not.
I think the margins have increased.
I
I know you say they're
agree.
running thinner margins, but I
I
definitely
agree.
think margins have
No, no,
increased.
I agree with you. Look, they thought there was an opportune moment to put a price rise in, and
Yeah.
look, who didn't? Everyone put price
Well, they
rises in.
look at JJP and they go, "Well, JJP are doing it.
Yeah,
I can
exactly.
do it."
But
Everyone's guilty of
what they
it.
didn't look at was how badly JGP was selling, right? And now they've bitten
I,
that poison
I
apple.
must admit, one thing I was going to ask you about this actually, because this is always been an interesting topic for me. We always seem to have a lot of sales data back in the past of how many units were made of every
Yeah.
game and everything like that. But that seems to have gone by the wayside. Now it's a lot of guesstimates. Is that because the industry has just been a bit more closed door about it, or is it just that that information became public knowledge when the business went bust? I don't know.
But I think at least for some of those companies, so Williams was a publicly listed company at one stage.
Right.
So I kind of think they had to release some of that data, but it does. It is a bit bizarre that they don't release that data because it it would be useful data for the market to know really what's going
Absolutely.
well
I
and
want
what.
to know how successful that game was, how many units it sold, over what period, because
But
then that way I
sales,
can turn around and say, well, is that game successful or not? Rather
yeah,
than going by
sales.
what's in the top 100 on pin side.
Yeah, I know, but that's the point though. Sales aren't like. Let me give you an example, right? I got a game called Quicksilver, right? It's easily in one of my top five best
Sure.
games. That's they sold I think two or three thousand of them, if even that. And I got another one. In fact, this is a better example. Stargazer. I think they sold less than 1,500 because they they moved from one game to the next much more often, and it's kind of frustrating for. If say Stranger Things had sold the same number as Stargazer, does that make it as good a game as Stargazer, or as a worse game than Jurassic Park?
Oh, no, it shouldn't be a sole metric, but I definitely think it helps you when you're buying a game to understand whether or not this was a good game or if it's just somebody on Pinside saying, this is a great game because I own it. Because there is a
Yeah.
lot of people on Pinside
Uh,
that definitely go, this is a
every
10 out of 10 game. And it's like, yeah, it's because you own it.
yeah, no, and people are always going to say that. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
I own Star Wars, but it's shit, right? So, I kind
There
of
are a few people in this world that will turn around and say, this game's a complete dog. Can you buy it from me? I just don't think they do
that's
that.
probably where I'm going wrong. But look, but you want to look. Well, I buy games for to have variety in tournaments. And look, and I think look. This is one of the wonderful things of pinball is you can
Yeah.
have games that you don't like, but for every game you don't like, there's 10 that you do, right? And
Oh, yeah, 100%.
that is for me
I
that
honestly thought I'd run out of games to get, which sounds weird because I only own 10. But I've owned about a total of like 28, 30. I think I'd have to check the list. I stopped counting at one point.
yeah.
So I've been through quite a lot, and I tapped out. I thought I tapped out my list, but actually there's still some more I want to get.
I currently own 109 right now.
Yeah, I know, I know. You and
Yeah,
all the other rich boys sat in the
I
UK
actually think it
with your
might be
massive supplies.
I think it might be 111 because I think I forgot to count a few that turned up
It's
in.
funny when I speak to my friends that are outside the hobby, and they're like, "How the hell how have you got 10? That's
Yeah, no.
ridiculous. All that on toys." And I'm like, "Yeah, you wait until you see how many people I know that have got like 10 times that."
Well, but also it's about how you spend and how you buy. So like there's probably 30 of them that I've bought new. The other
Sure.
70 I've bought second hand because you
Yeah.
can't get them all. But if this is the thing I was trying to get over to people, if you're foaming at the mouth to get something, you're going to pay over the odds, and then when you come to
True.
sell
I've been
it,
told by so many people that. The thing is, I'm an impatient individual.
see,
I
I
always
am,
have been.
I am as well. That's why I buy it.
The word impulse buyer comes to mind.
That's that's one of the reasons why I buy LEs, because I can't wait for the premium to turn up.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
the premium turned up at the same time as the Pro, I would never buy an LE. I just wouldn't.
Really? Now that's
Yeah,
interesting. I
yeah.
see. I always thought, because you were a collector at heart, that you were buying the LE because they maintain their value, at least better than a premium would anyway. And that basically, obviously, it's got all the trimmings on it. But you're saying that that doesn't interest you then?
No, look, don't get me wrong. It does interest me, but value for money, you're getting ripped off on an LE. Let's be honest, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I can put look, and I'll give you an example, right? Our good friend Gonzo at Pinside, I was watching one of his videos, and he videos my Deadpool that was at the show, and he's
Right.
going, oh look, a Deadpool LE. It's not a Deadpool LE. It's a Deadpool Premium with LE armor that I bought for 200 quid, right?
Right.
And but to him, it looked like an LE, and to most people, they looked at it and thought, oh, it's an LE. No, it was a premium. So look, don't get me wrong. There are certain aspects of LEs I love. Like I love the mirror back glasses. They're definitely better, no question about it, right?
Sure.
But when
Sure.
you look at mirror back glass, when you look at the armor, when you look at the speakers, and you look at the signed picture from Gary, it does not add up to a 4,000 grand premium,
Do you
right?
do you
Let's
think
be
they would do better then by just going down to two models?
no, I don't, because look, as much as Stern have found a business model that works for them. The LEs contribute significantly to kind of the bottom line cost of designing a
Must
machine.
do, right? That's got to be a
Pros,
huge profit margin in that
pros
one.
are the volume, and then there
Yeah.
is this middle segment that where I mean, I used to buy
What
premiums.
what would you like to see in an LE then? Like let's go back to that, because you've already said that the stuff in it at the moment really doesn't tick all the boxes, and a premium is like
I
what
tell you
you'd go
what,
for.
I tell you what I'd like to see in an LE is kind of like what CGC do to some extent, right?
So
They've
like
got
exclusive topper.
you
Well,
got
to an extent, obviously.
copper, you've got different lighting, you've got
Yeah.
a back glass, um, but also I look at Star Trek LE and Tron LE, and
Those were good, right?
those,
I love that armor with the way it all light up with the phasers along the side of
yeah, I
Star
mean
Trek. That was unique.
I'd love
And the
to
light up on the back box as well.
I'd love to see some stuff like that, and it just hasn't happened since that game, and that game sold well. It wasn't
Yeah, yeah.
so. But again, Stern's take is as well. We can give them just the armor without the lights, and people are still going to buy it. And we can still charge the same price. So
Mm.
I would like to see something genuinely unique. Also, LEs 1,000 is not limited edition. It just isn't.
No.
500,
That
500
that number went up too much. It was at 500, I think, was fine. 750 was pushing it, and then 1,000 is just way too much.
Yeah, there's, believe it or not, there are like about 8,000. If you believe what Jersey Jack's saying, I probably think they're speaking the truth here. There's about 7,000 limited edition Guns N' Roses. How is
Sounds about
7,000
right.
limited edition? It's just
But it
not.
sounds silly, doesn't it? Yeah. Limited to me is supposed to be a small number. That doesn't
Yeah,
feel
I mean,
like a small
it's
number when
like
the total number of games sold is. Probably the true limited edition was the standard version that they sold.
yeah,
That probably
absolutely.
sold like 250 or whatever.
It's like if you want the most limited edition game, it's Monsters Pro. It's just they
Probably
just
is.
they just didn't sell any of them, right?
Yeah.
Um, and actually, for a time, Monsters prices went through the roof. But look, I think if Stern are going to, I mean, I genuinely think that they've kind of done a bit of a hatchet job on LE buyers. No one
Yeah.
listening to this will be crying in their malt whiskey, but the price is ridiculous now. And actually, I once upon a time said I'm never buying a pinball machine over 10 grand, and
A
that was
couple of people I've spoken to in the community have said that, but obviously that's become the norm
it
for a
has.
premium.
It is. It's a premium. I mean, I just bought a Foo Fighters premium for the club,
Yeah.
and that's what it costs. But I'm getting a bit more savvy about it. So instead of I wanted to put a James Bond premium in the club. Instead of buying it new, I bought one nearly new off the forum,
Like
saved
a showroom sort
myself
of thing.
£2,000 basically. Right, I'd
Yeah.
40 plays on it. I had the original code, which made me laugh when I played it because it was so terrible. But yeah, look, I mean, I think it's difficult. The business of pinball is such a labor intensive manual business. It's it's and also fixed cost base. Having a factory, the fixed costs in the factory is just horrendous. So
Well, I get why Stern had to jack some prices up because that new factory ain't going to be cheap. And you were talking about earlier in the square footage of New York. I imagine wherever they are, square footage is expensive. So it's I
I
get why prices have to be high. I just wish honestly that they weren't. I
no,
would love it if we went back to the days of a £6,000 Pro and a £8,000
you
Premium
see,
and a
I
ten
think
grand LE.
yeah, you see, I think Stern would sell more or less twice, apart from certain titles like Keith Elwyn, he's going to sell out everything, right?
Sure.
But let's look at the last non Keith. If you take Keith Elwyn out of Stern,
Mm.
I don't think there's a sellout game. I don't know since Walking Dead, maybe. Is that fair? Let me just think. Batman '66 was a sellout.
I was going to say the Kapow games do well, right? So
Yeah,
yeah,
but they're specific. I mean, they were pretty much they were quite well dressed up. I'm
sure.
trying to think. I'm just trying to think. What game is sold out that you just couldn't get a hold of? Honestly, there's very few. I think Walking Dead was a big seller. Star Trek was a big seller, and then Ghostbusters is probably the other big seller.
Yeah, 'cause
Um,
to be fair, it was a good license. I mean, a horrible geometry on the flippers, but other
it's
than
a
that,
terrible game, but
yeah,
honestly, they haven't had a bang out crazy seller. Metallica, but again, that's before you know Metallica was a big seller. ACDC was a big seller for Stern, but if you look at this since Spike 2 came along, I can't think of. Let us know, internet, if I'm just being brain dead on this, but I can't think of a Spike 2 game that isn't a Keith Elwyn game that's sold out massively. Maybe Star Wars, but
really, that sold out. I don't know.
yeah,
I thought it was panned pretty harshly, right, because of what was in it
yeah, I
or
think
lack of what was in it.
I mean it got completely panned for the Photoshop playfield, etc. But
I
um,
got to admit, I don't understand. Yeah, I'm glad they moved away from that. Thank God they moved away from
yeah, but
Photoshop playfields.
I genuinely think that so if you park Keith Elwyn games for a minute, right? I genuinely believe Stern would sell more games at a kind of 6, 8, and 10 price point
Well,
than
I tell you what, let's move on quick because
yeah,
we've been doubling on that. So Labyrinth, then.
yes,
Let's talk about let's see because it's interesting, right? We talk about numbers and sellouts. It's a weird license. Like the general feedback I get from most people is like it's not really what they'd go for if they were going to go for an 80s fantasy. Um, I liked it as a kid. I still
me too.
rewatched it with the wife a few times. Got a cult classic. It's a cheesy
It's a
film.
it's a cheesy cult classic.
Yeah.
It's not a mega movie though, right? No, it's not a Back to the Future, right?
No, no, it's not. No, that's the thing, right? But maybe that's got something going for it. I mean, like we spoke a bit offline before about how maybe being a potentially cheaper license could allow it to have a higher bill of materials.
Exactly.
So it'd be interesting to see what this company comes up with. And you've obviously mentioned a couple of like high profile people that are making this game. So do you want to run through
Yeah,
those
look,
names?
I mean, look, I'm excited about this game
Yeah,
because of the people who are involved in it. So, and these are not pinball bozos; these are pinball royalty. I would put them. So,
mm,
you've got Eric Prepke, who wrote Cactus Canyon Continued and the code for Rick and Morty.
yeah, it's good.
You've got Scott Denisi. I don't need to say anything about him because everybody knows who Scott Denisi is.
Yeah,
And then you've got Eric. Is it Eric Vanis? I can't remember. I'm sure it's Eric Vanis, but I might be wrong on that. There's another. It's kind of weird. I'm saying another pinball dignitary. I don't know him that well. David Vanis it is. Sorry, David Vanis, and he's built a ton of pinball stuff.
sure.
So That's my understanding of who's involved in it.
So it's definitely got a good chance to succeed because I mean I've got Rick and Morty and I love what he's done. Scott Neese he's done with the lighting in that game. It's to me it's up there with Guns N' Roses in terms of a light show. It's just so good the way each individual LED is lit and the way it animates. It must have taken them ages to do some of that work. So
Yeah. So
I'm
David.
looking forward to how that might work in Labyrinth.
Yeah. So David was a Spooky employee. He's been involved in TNA, Ultraman, Rick and Morty, Alice Cooper, the Jetsons, Rob Zombie, which some of you will never have played, but it's actually quite a fun game. Um, he goes back to Skip B, so these are the guys that did Predator. Although I
Ah,
don't,
okay.
he wasn't the crook there, but I think he was kind of a little bit of a victim of some of the stupidity that happened there. But
The
this
copyright
is
obtaining and
this
stuff like
is
that. Yeah.
this is a serious kind of. So he's an animator, right? And if you look at the animations on those
So we should
games,
have some good art assets then inside the video and stuff like that then.
absolutely, and I think the again this is a team that and I don't know where the money's coming from or etc. But and you know what I like about this, right? They're talking on the pitch, as I like to say it. They're
Right.
not putting out we're the greatest new pinball company and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. They basically said, "Here's our game, take it or leave it." Right?
Right.
And it's apparently going to be at Expo next week, which I'm going to be at, so I'll see it.
Oh, cool. That'd be great to hear your feedback on that.
And I like how they've kind of launched. There's some mumbling from Canada about the name of the company, but no
Who
one gives.
cares?
No
They
one
could
cares.
call themselves Big Balls Are Us, and I wouldn't care. I mean, to
Exactly.
me, you shouldn't rate the business by its name. You rate it
Yeah,
by
I mean,
the
in
quality of
fact,
the product they're putting out.
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like I just it just seems nuts to me, but it gives Chris
Yeah,
a bone to chew on, I guess. But look, I
maybe.
think I know Eric, I know Scott really well. These guys they've got you cut through their body and they bleed pinball. I mean, they are
Okay.
genuine pinball folks. I'm excited for them, and I hope it's a massive success. I have to say, it's a brave freaking move putting out a pinball machine right now.
We were saying this earlier, right? There's just so many damn titles coming out. I feel like what is the advantage actually thinking about this is that Stern obviously is putting out at the moment, to be frank, clunkers. I
Yeah,
mean, like it Venom, Venom. Let's face it,
yeah,
it hasn't sold well.
no,
Stranger Things, we've already had it. JPLE 30th edition, blah blah blah. Elvira, same thing. Rerun, rerun, rerun. All we got is rerun. So there's a gap. Anybody who's like looking for this year and saying, you know, this is probably the opportune time prior to like something like Jaws hitting. If they strike early enough, they can get some early buy, and a bit like Pulp Fiction did at the beginning of the year.
yeah,
So maybe, just maybe, they'll ignite. What I'm worried about, because I was worried that the Big Lebowski guys, I think it was it Dutch Pinball, was going to get. There's a rumor mill that they're going to get Back to the Future. Now, if they do, I don't mind it. They're a good company, but they're so small. And
yeah,
I just feel like with the wrong license, as in like a hot license like that, it could crush them because the demand will be so hard and the spotlight will be so bright that they won't be able to meet and they'll buckle. And this could happen
and
with Labyrinth, even though Labyrinth is very cult. Done right, it will sell better like than Willy Wonka would have, if in my book. And I feel like although there are other puppet movies from Jim Henson, i.e., Dark Crystal, The Muppets Christmas Carol, all that other stuff, it's not a bad title. There's enough in the fantasy around that. And remember, if you watch the film back, he's got a part with these three balls, where he's these crystal balls and that. I think they carry parts of her. Uh, is it? I forget it's her if it's part of who she is. Like she loses elements of who she is each time one of those goes, so she forgets who she is, so that she'll become the bride of the Prince of Darkness or whatever his name is. I can't remember. I'm not like I haven't watched it recently, so forgive me anybody who's a massive fan. But basically, they could obviously tie that into how the game is. You've got your three balls, and every time you lose a ball, you're losing an essence of who she is. So I feel like there's definitely a way you can tie in the license. It'll be exciting to see what they come up with. I'm more interested to see what they pull up with the mechs.
Yeah,
And as I said, I'm just concerned about them meeting the demand.
as
If I'm
we've been
honest.
as we've been recording, 40 minutes ago they just dumped all the information about Labyrinth. So
Okay. All right. Shame we didn't record a little bit later.
yeah, but let me just run through a few highlights.
Sure.
They're
Go on.
doing 1,100 units, and
Okay.
they're 10 grand a piece. They got some accessories. It's got and just game features. It's got 4 multi balls, 2 magnet
So
subways.
there's one edition.
There's one edition.
Interesting.
Battles of Fun, they're called, and yeah. So David Van Ees, he's an artist, but he's the CEO of this company.
Is it a wide body as I predicted, or have they mentioned the cabinet dimensions?
It doesn't look like a wide body. Uh,
Interesting. Okay.
it does.
I mean, that might do it. To be
No,
honest with you, I'd
I would
prefer
say
that.
it's not a wide body because it's typically wide bodies have got 3 lanes and it's only got 2 on either side.
Okay.
It looks very nice. They got sculpt toys and proper back glasses it looks loaded. It's got proper ramps. None of this 3D printed nonsense.
So they're wireform ramps, or
Wire from ramps.
okay?
The wire from habit rails are solid metal ramps. The
I
actual
mean,
ramp.
at 10 grand, again, do you know what, Neil? I'm going to bring you back to this. There's a company there with a license, with a
Yeah,
stacked playfield at 10 grand.
10 grand.
And
No, look,
this,
I'm not. I'm not saying that Stern have got or JGP have got the price right. They definitely haven't. It's too
yeah.
much. But um, you know,
But this
and
is good, right? This is what we were on about earlier. I think competition is good. We definitely need more
oh,
selection. We
absolutely.
definitely need more
I
choice.
agree. But actually, there's a guy. Just so you know who's involved. So David Van Ees is the designer and CEO.
Sure.
They got an actual art director, Johnny Fraser Allen. I don't know the name. Marketing graphics, Blake Dominiso. Don't know him. But game rules, Phil Grimaldi. So I know Phil. He's a friend of mine.
Okay.
He's a great pinball player. He will do fantastic rules. Animation, Trent Armstrong, again, not someone I'm aware of.
And have they talked about like production schedule, like when the game is likely to start release and when they're going to take deposits?
I'm just skimming through it as we. There's videos, so you can watch the videos in your own
Okay.
time. In fact, by the time you listen to this, you've probably watched the video, so it's kind of keen to
Form
see.
your own opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
We definitely would like to hear what people think about it. So by
But
all
look,
means, like,
I mean, what I would say is that it looks like they've done a proper job. This does not look like a, dare I say
a
it,
cash in poor license.
a home pin or
You're trying to tell
a
me it's not a Spinal Tap. What's wrong with Spinal Tap, Neil?
or a haggis. This looks like a proper, like we're giving this a full go. It
They're
doesn't.
probably a fan of the license, right? They have to be. They must be a fan of the film to
Yeah, it
choose
doesn't
something like
say
that. So.
what's shipping when, or at least if it does, I haven't been able to skim it. But look, I think again, look, it's more pinball. What's not to like, right?
Absolutely.
It looks like a flowy shooter. Just looking at the playfield, and it looks like there's lots of little touches.
A lot of
That
little worlds under the glass, sort of thing.
yeah, it definitely looks like more like a World Under Glass than some other games. But it's got 2 LCD screens. Not sure why. It's got color changing
Okay.
speakers. It's got
Has it got magnets in the game?
2 magnets.
Okay.
It's got
Well,
an
see, this is a rare thing. I mean, like,
um,
it could be that, again, I like the fact that there are people willing to take a risk in this industry still and put out something as big as that. Because that, as I say, it doesn't sound like it's cheap to make.
if you look at the game, it looks very much like a Stern LE, just the shape of the cabinet.
Yeah,
Basically.
and at 10 grand, that's a good deal.
Yeah, I can't tell.
Where are they manufacturing it? Does it say if it's in the US or is it Europe?
Not say anything about manufacturing.
Okay.
At least it doesn't in the. So I'm reading this. I'm reading this off Nap Arcade.
Okay.
Our good friend Jason there. Basically, the distributors are Kingpin, Coin Taker, Flipping Out, Mr. Pinball, Joysticks Classic, and Fun. So I don't know who's. I suspect Phil will be the distributor in the UK, but it doesn't.
Yeah, it might be that he has to reach out again. Being in the UK,
He knows
unfortunately, we just don't have a huge footprint.
Yeah, I mean, he knows these people well.
Yeah.
So look, that's Labyrinth. I'm conscious of time.
Yeah.
You know, we'll probably hear more about this, but and hopefully this is at. It doesn't say it's. I mean, I read somewhere that it was going to be at Pinball Expo, so hopefully. Oh, sorry, anticipated shipping January 2024.
Wow. Okay.
Which is
That means they're starting production already, and that they're ready to be, hopefully
well, it means probably
shipping out the first set of units in
Yeah,
Jan.
they're probably going after the supply chain. Making sure that
The real question would be how quickly they're going to fulfill that 1,000, right?
exactly.
That's more interesting.
Um,
Is it
yeah,
going to be like 10 units a month?
indeed. You've got the Blood Red Kiss, Elvira Kiss edition, which I mean, there's no doubt that's a cash grab.
Yeah.
But that's what these guys need to do. And then rumors of Spooky doing another dual themed pinball machine, which
Do you know? I don't know about that. After what happened with Ultraman and Halloween, and Ultraman was terrible.
yeah,
I just don't think you can give both themes enough attention to then say, hey, this playfield's going to work for both. It's
100%.
really hard. No one else does it, so why are they making their work harder for themselves? Focus on one theme and smack it out the park. I can see Spooky are capable of doing it. They show enough talent, I think, in order to make a good game. And I feel that they've got the passion. They just need to land the right bit of code and build the right set of geometry, and that's it.
Yeah, look,
the rest should take care of itself.
I'll quote my favorite Steve Jobs line: "Focus is about saying no, not saying yes." Right, and
True.
doing one thing well rather than two things half-heartedly.
You don't want to split. You just don't want to split your attention.
No, and I think I mean, after they did Ultraman and Halloween, which are both still not really finished games. Let's be honest.
No.
In terms of code, they said they would never do that.
I had code updates for my Rick and Morty in 2023. It just goes to show they still have code updated, and they are passionate about their games. But
and then
the just needs focus.
The other big news that will come out next week is Jersey Jack's new game, which is strongly believed to be
Elton John.
Let me tell you, I know. I can't say how I know, but I do know that the Elton John IP has been signed to a pinball company recently.
Okay.
If this isn't Elton John, someone else is working on it.
But if you look at the clues, like they said, the countdown has begun.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know, and you got all the stars in the background. It has to be Elton John.
I'd say I'm a big Elton John fan, music wise.
Without sounding incredibly ageist, like it's only appealing to a certain demographic of people, Neil. And I feel like Elton John is a bit like, okay, you're gonna apply to the nearly deads rather than the newlyweds.
No, look, I absolutely don't disagree with you, right? But I think his music
is good. I'm not going to lie, but it's another music pin. And you know what I'm like with music pins, Neil.
The guy is a musical prodigy. And if someone like Rocket Man on a pinball machine, I have to say, I think that could be pretty compelling. Unfortunately, it's made by JGP, which means I ain't...
Yeah. It will just be multi-ball. Sorry, I checked out when it said JJP. I'm not.
Yeah, I mean that is the danger. Although this is Mr. Steve Ritchie's first game with JJP, so
I love Steve Ritchie. Just put it out there, classic guy. Love his games, love the flow. If he can build flow back in, I know he said he was going to address the flippers as well because he hated that as soon as he started working at JJP. Maybe, just maybe, he can rescue this. I don't know, but I would rather they worked on a better license. I'm not going to lie.
No, I tend to agree. Look, I think we've done the big week in pinball.
Yeah.
Anyway. At least this month. Who knows what will come out next? Excuse me. Who knows what will come out next week at Expo? Probably. Scott and
I think we probably have to do another episode shortly.
Yeah.
I definitely want to hear your feedback on Labyrinth. It'll be very exciting to hear that. So yeah.
And we may have a special guest for the next pinball great British pinball podcast next time as well. Someone who you'll love. This is a great thing. We try and keep this to an hour and a half. We're at an hour and a half now. and it still feels like we've got so much to talk about. I
There's
mean, we're
probably another 20-30 minutes that we could talk about.
easy,
But yeah,
easy. And our hobby is, despite a lot of naysayers and doomsayers, and don't get me wrong, there's things that aren't right with the pinball industry and market and hobby, but there's an awful lot that is right. And again, I said this. I think the
well,
last.
I'm not leaving this hobby anytime soon. I love it.
No, exactly. I said this the last podcast, I think, or maybe it was on another thing I was talking on. But the golden era of pinball isn't the '90s; it's right here and now.
True.
And get on the bandwagon and enjoy it whilst it lasts, because it may not last forever. Hopefully, it does.
But look how many pinball companies we've got coming out of the woods. Like literally, there's no way you can say this is like the down spiral. I feel like obviously there are pressures in the economy in the world that are forcing people to consider their purchases carefully, but there's still an interest. There's without a doubt there's still an interest.
There's one other thing we have to leave the world with, and that is the news that both Scott and I's Cactus Canyon is finally on the freaking wagon. And it's coming finally.
Have you had a call yet? Because I think I had a call earlier, but I was at work, so I had to cancel it.
I have not had a call. All I know is I've paid for it, which is always a big sign.
Yeah, true. True.
So it looks like they're coming. There's a load of Scooby Doos put on a boat for those that in the UK that have ordered Scooby Doos. So it's going to be an exciting next couple of months. At least for me, I've got 2 games coming, and I've got no space. In fact, I've got 3 games coming because I've got a Theatre Magic coming from Scott.
You do.
And
Finally.
I've got nowhere to put any of them. We'll do a video on Theatre Magic. We'll once it's in place, we'll whisk around it.
Yeah. Did you manage to sort your back glass for it?
It looks stunning. I have not sorted out the back glass, so I'll figure that out at some point in time. We'll just stick what's there back in. But
all right, everyone, just bear in mind, right, I'm putting that out right now. I didn't choose this 3D translate thing that he's got in there.
Oh, that's it. I'm out.
I didn't do that bit. You can look at the other bit. That looks much nicer.
Luke, you'll find us all on the regular podcast places. If you want to have a chat with us, we're on Facebook. Look for the Great British Pinball Podcast, or on YouTube. You can leave comments, and we'll try and get something more. We'll try and get an email address set up or something.
Yeah,
you can email us. But Luke, it's exciting times in pinball. Live it and breathe it and enjoy it whilst it's there. I'm here at New York Pinball Championships. Levy and the guys run the great gig, and then next week Chicago Expo. And which when I get back, Scott and I will hook up and we'll do a quick update on everything that we saw. With that in mind, Scott, let's just answer a question. If there was a theme that you could have tomorrow, what would it be?
The Thing.
The Thing. Okay, for me,
John Carpenter's The Thing.
Yeah, and I can see Spooky doing that. For me, the Blues Brothers. The Blues Brothers.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I'm a massive Blues Brothers fan. I love the music. I love that. Not just that whole era of blues and music, and also Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi. They're very intelligent, talented people. Like, if John Belushi was still alive, he'd be like Steven Spielberg sort of character. I just think he would be
nice.
He'd be huge. But I'd love to see them do that because I love the music. If you go on YouTube, there's tons about. There'll be some folks saying, "What's the Blues Brothers?" Go on YouTube, watch the movie. It's hilarious. Watch some of the Saturday Night Live stuff that they used to do. It is absolutely fantastic. But with that, we will bid you all farewell. And we'll be back in a couple of weeks to do an update on all the shenanigans that have been going on. And with that, thank you very much. I'm Neil McRae.
And I'm Scott. Catch you guys later.
Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.